now it's time for Privacy Talks. Privacy Talks brings you interviews between Privacy News Online's Caleb Chen and influencers, activists, and experts from pro-privacy organizations around the world. Let's go to Caleb, who recently caught up with Tyler Ahn from the Mozilla Foundation to talk about Firefox browser.
Hello and welcome to Privacy Talks. This is Caleb Chen from Privacy News Online, and today I'm speaking with Tyler Ahn, the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Firefox at Mozilla. Tyler, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. We're very excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
So firstly, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and the steps in your career that led you to your current position?
Sure. I actually started in international development, looking at econometrics and all of that analysis, data analysis around international policy. And in the mid-2000s, I actually ran into marketing by accident, not by training, and in a global nonprofit based in DC. And a small group of us went on to start up a consultancy out here in Portland, Oregon, where I'm speaking to you today, to take those lessons that we learned running a program within that nonprofit to help companies and foundations engage their key stakeholders around user-generated content and user-centered design for marketing campaigns. And that's kind of how I stumbled into technology. I helped design the Windows Insider program and how they were going to engage the beta community around pre-releases of Windows 10. And through a personal emergency, I needed to come back to Portland and saw this opportunity at Firefox. And it kind of brought me full circle to the mid-2000s when I was using Firefox and fell in love with the internet and marketing to do that here at Firefox.
So now that you're at Firefox, what do you focus on there?
So right now, two primary things. First is our desktop browser, basically our flagship browser, and working really closely with product teams around their privacy security features, as well as our performance features. And secondly, I've most recently started working on our product, the kind of a content engine called Pocket, that I'm super excited about as well.
Nice. So I've noticed that media outlets like TechRadar have labeled Firefox as a feisty underdog. Do you like that label? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's probably apt and accurate, right? I don't know if you've seen our most recent campaign, and if I might curse, because 2020 has given us the license to say the F-bomb any place and any time, our most recent campaign is to unfuck the internet. We think the promise and the magic of the internet has been taken over through clickbait and misinformation, and there's so many more opportunities that we have to make it right again. And if you look at our founding, even that we were definitely the underdogs from the get-go. If you remember the 90s, that was the days of Internet Explorer, and kind of the belief that we shouldn't have one single company controlling the internet.
So you alluded to this a little bit, but what was the original reason that the Firefox browser was created, and how did that name Firefox come about?
So in the early days, if you remember Internet Explorer, it was it was a long time ago. You were probably dialing in AOL. It was like the days of CD-ROMs in the mail, velvet jumpsuits, Nickelback. And it was basically the Internet Explorer ruled the browser space, and it was so full of viruses and malware that the US government advised people not to use it. And so that's when Netscape's code got put on open source by Mitchell Baker, our then CEO and current CEO, under the belief that the internet should be open and free and a resource for everyone. So that's how it's come about. So the name, I think there was a couple of others around Phoenix and Firebird, and those, for one reason or another, got left behind and settled on Firefox, which is another name for a red panda, our mascot, and a really cute little creature.
Got it. So what is Mozilla's position on internet privacy, and how is it manifested in the Firefox browser?
it truly is the core of our DNA on how we approach everything. And I kind of feel it working here every day. Anytime we make a product decision, whether we want to even track a new data point in the telemetry, we have a data steward that tells us, this is upholding our users' privacy, or we have to do it in a certain way. And if you look at how the products show up for our users, you can look at our enhanced tracking protection, which blocks third-party tracking cookies for all our users across the world. We've kind of made a first go at DNS over HTTPS. It encrypts, all the websites that you visit, so nobody can track which websites that you go to. And Firefox Monitor, which helps you understand, if you were involved in a data breach. Like, all of those things show up to help protect users' privacy and security. And we think that it is a fundamental must in anything that we do.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the enhanced tracking protection. Could you go into that a little bit more and describe what exactly it's protecting Firefox users from?
Sure. I don't know if you have that feeling of like the internet is stalking you when that ad follows you around. Enhanced tracking protection basically removes that awful, grimy feeling of being stalked on the internet. It's blocking cookies from known trackers, and they are typically lurking in almost literally every single website that you visit. And by default, behind the scenes, you can browse the web freely, knowing that these trackers will be blocked on your behalf, and that those ads that kind of creep you out won't take place in Firefox.
It's always good to be able to avoid those ads.
Indeed.
So you also mentioned Firefox Monitor, and it's used for helping users with data breaches. How does an internet user use Firefox Monitor to become more informed about data breaches, and what exactly is it that's being monitored?
So basically, it's a website and it's fully integrated into Firefox, the browser. So you can go to the website, type in an email address, and it will vet your email address against a list of known breaches. That list is curated by Have I Been Pwned, and we have partnered with them to surface that to our users. And also, let's say you have an account with a website that's been breached. So you're type in the URL and you go and visit that website. It will tell you when you land there it's been part of a breach. So you can also sign up to get alerted, and it'll go right into your inbox that you've been your email address or your other personal data has been compromised. And you can get key steps on how you can remediate that as well.
Sounds very useful. So one thing that I noticed that Firefox released recently that the community really liked is the Facebook container. What is it, and why should every Firefox user check it out?
I actually think every Facebook user should check it out. Did you delete Facebook?
I've deleted Facebook.
Oh, good for you. Well, I'm a small business owner outside of work, and I also organize a social justice group on Facebook. And I got so close to deleting it, but I just couldn't because there was just some things I had to do. The Facebook container is a add-on that takes about 10 seconds to install into your Facebook browser. And anytime you open Facebook or Instagram, it opens it in a tab with a black line at the bottom. And you know that it's put into a small cage where it belongs, so that you can still use Facebook without worrying that all of your other activity that your web browsing outside of Facebook stays out of Facebook, and the things that you do in Facebook stay in Facebook. So it basically sequesters all of that browsing data and your personal data away. And even though you're still using Facebook and you've given consent for them to know your likes or your photo uploads or article shares, etc., but that's not bleeding out into the rest of your internet life. And I haven't quite gotten to a point where I can delete Facebook, but it makes me feel so much better knowing that I've sequestered it and put it in the little container and cage that it belongs in.
So you mentioned this earlier, and this very moving message from Mozilla that the internet is essentially fucked, and doing stuff like using Firefox allows you to unfuck the internet. So how is it that making a browser choice or other incremental steps like that can help all of us collectively unfuck the internet and give power back to its users?
There is still a lot of magic in the internet. It helps us connect with the people that we love, pay our bills without ever having to lick a stamp. There are wonderful things about it. But as I mentioned earlier, that absolutely the misinformation, these ads that follow you around, clickbait that gets you deep into some algorithms and you can't get out of, those things are all, we want to give individual users the power to control their internet life. And if you choose Firefox, it is such that we prevent those trackers from following you around. We also partnered with a number of other folks. Using a VPN is a great example of helping you not be followed around the internet as well. And so it's basically a call to action for our users and those not yet using Firefox, that you can choose software with your values, and that we are a value-led movement to ensure that the web stays free and open to all, and that the bad actors, there are tangible steps that we can take to relegate them to far corners of the internet without it taking over your life.
Yeah, I think it's very important that listeners know that there are software out there that do share the same values that they have.
Absolutely.
So lastly, while we've talked about a lot of dire things today, let's end on a happy note. What is something that you personally, or either at work or outside of work, are looking forward to?
So 2 things. End of the year, I just love this time of year. The leaves are changing where I am. So personally, November, I am looking at 18 years married. So it's a big anniversary for me and my husband, as well as, I love all of the holidays and festivities around that. I'm also, I mentioned earlier that I recently taken on Pocket, and one of our content products is a product marketing manager. And they're just learning so many cool new things that they're launching next year. So one of the things that they worked on in the past year was a recommendation engine. So it's been content that's been human vetted. And every time I read an article from Pocket, it gives me kind of not only does it make me smarter and more thoughtful, but also kind of gives me kind of a warm and fuzzy feeling that is so needed in 2020. And I'm really looking forward to some new launches happening in 2021.
Awesome. Make sure to check out Pocket, guys. So that's it for questions today. Thanks again, Tyler, for joining us. To our viewers, if you'd like to learn more about Mozilla, PAN's tracking protection, Facebook container, Pocket, please check out the links below. Thank you for watching this Privacy News Online special feature. Make sure to subscribe to see more interviews like this, as well as the top privacy news stories from around the world. Till the next time.
Privacy News Online is brought to you by Private Internet Access, the award-winning no-log VPN service who reminds you to always use protection.